Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone in the middle of the night, scrolling through your contacts, wondering who would actually answer? If I called, it's a haunting question, isn't it? Not in the middle of the day, not when things are fine, but in those nights when the silence around you feels like it's pressing against your chest. Nights when the weight of life is too heavy to carry, and you realize how small your circle actually is. Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't like to say out loud. Loyalty is never tested under the sunlight. It's only revealed in the dark. When life is easy, when the bills are paid, when the laughs are flowing, when the sky is clear, everyone wants to stand beside you. Promises come cheap when nothing is on the line. People will swear, "I've got your back," and maybe in that moment. But wait until the storm comes. Wait until your world shakes, until you can barely stand. That's when you see who's real and who only enjoyed the sunshine with you. Think about it for a second. Who was there the last time your life fell apart? When you lost someone you loved? When the money dried up? When your health collapsed? Did everyone who swore they'd stay forever actually show up? Or did some of them slowly fade into the shadows, leaving you alone with your pain? That's the lesson most of us don't want to face. Many people vanish when the night grows cold. Not always because they're bad or cruel or betraying you, but because they're human. They have their own storms to fight. And when survival is on the line, most people will choose their own shelter first. And yet, what does that leave you with? It leaves you with the most piercing question of all. When the weight becomes unbearable, who really shows up? Now, I want you to sit with that question. Not rush past it, not numb it with distractions. Really sit with it. Because in that silence, when you're tempted to reach for your phone again, you're staring at the very foundation of human relationships. We love to believe loyalty is permanent, that if we give enough, if we care enough, if we sacrifice enough, people will mirror that back to us. But let me ask you this. How many times have you poured yourself out for someone only to realize when you needed them, they were nowhere to be found? It stings. It feels unfair. And part of you wants to scream, why? Why didn't they stay when I would have stayed for them? The Stoics, those ancient thinkers who faced wars, exile, betrayal, and loss, understood this reality better than most of us today. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning, expect nothing, and you will never be disappointed. That wasn't cynicism. That was clarity, because the pain we feel doesn't come only from people leaving. The deepest cut comes from expecting them not to. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine it's pouring rain. You're stranded on the side of the road, car broken down, drenched, shivering, dialing every number you can think of. Who actually picks up? Who drops everything to come to your side? For most of us, the list is shorter than we wish it was. And in that moment, we learn the difference between companionship in good times and true loyalty in hard times. But here's where the Stoic mindset flips everything. Instead of resenting those who don't show up, instead of drowning in disappointment, you begin to ask, how do I stand stronger when the world goes silent? Because one of the most liberating truths you can ever accept is this: no one is coming to save you. I remember a conversation with someone who had just gone through a brutal season of life. They lost their job, their partner walked away, and their so-called friends disappeared one by one. At first, they were crushed. But then, slowly, they realized something. The emptiness left behind wasn't a curse. It was clarity. It forced them to see what was always true: their survival, their healing, their strength was never supposed to come from others. It had to come from within. And maybe you've lived a version of that too. Maybe you've been that person, sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to show up, only to realize no one is coming. If you have, I want you to hear this. You are not broken because people left. You are free because now you see the truth. So let me bring us back to the opening question. Who really shows up when the weight becomes too much? The answer might not be what you hoped, but it will set you free. Because that's the moment you learn the most valuable lesson of all. The one presence you can always count on is the one looking back at you in the mirror. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you rise. This isn't about bitterness. This isn't about cutting everyone off or distrusting the world. This is about clarity. It's about walking lighter because you've stopped carrying illusions. When the storm comes, and it will, you won't collapse waiting for a savior. You'll already know. The only person guaranteed to walk through the fire with me is myself. And from that foundation, something amazing happens. You value loyalty when it's there, but you don't build your life on the hope that it will last forever. That's where strength begins. That's where freedom lives. So tonight, if you find yourself scrolling through names in the dark, asking who would pick up, remember this. Whether the answer is one person or none at all, you are still here. And that means you already have the most important ally of all, yourself. That's the opening truth. Loyalty is tested only in the dark, and sometimes the silence reveals more than the promises ever did. The question is, what will you do with that silence? There comes a moment in life when you realize something that feels almost unbearable. No one is coming to save you. Not your best friend, not your partner, not even your family. When the weight of the world is pressing down on your chest, when the nights feel darker than you thought possible, people may whisper, "I've got your back." But when the storm truly hits, when the ground shakes beneath you, many of those voices will vanish into silence. And here's the thing, this doesn't make them villains. It makes them human. Think about it. Every single person you know carries battles you cannot see. Quiet storms raging behind closed doors. Worries about money, health, relationships, regrets, responsibilities. And when survival is on the line, when resources are thin, most people will choose themselves first. It's not cruelty, it's instinct. Imagine someone thrashing in the ocean, fighting not to drown. On the shore stands a parent with their child clinging tightly to their arm. Do they jump into the water to save the drowning man? Or do they step back, protecting their strength for the child who depends on them? Most people step back, not because they want the man to drown, but because they simply cannot afford to risk everything. And in that moment, you see the raw truth of human nature. The Stoic philosophers understood this better than anyone. Seneca once wrote, "Each day is a life." In other words, every single day demands decisions. And when hard moments come, most people decide in favor of their own survival. They're not calculating betrayal, they're just trying to make it through their own storms. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Expect nothing, and you will never be disappointed." He wasn't being pessimistic. He was freeing himself from the chains of false expectations. He knew that pain multiplies when we script roles for other people they never agreed to play. The truth is simple but sharp. Your suffering isn't only from their absence, it's from your expectation. Now let me ask you something. How many times have you stayed up all night for someone else, answering their calls, carrying their burdens like they were your own? And when your world fell apart, when grief or failure crushed you, how many of those people picked up the phone without being asked? It hurts, doesn't it? That ache in your chest isn't just about loneliness. It's about the story you told yourself. They'll be there for me because I was there for them. But life doesn't always mirror back what you give. And the sooner you accept this, the freer you become. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a storm. The rain is lashing down. The wind howls like it wants to break you in half. You stretch out your hand, desperate for someone, anyone to grab it. But no one comes. The road is empty. The echoes of promises fade into the thunder. That is the moment of truth. That is when you understand no one is coming. And yes, it cuts deep. But it's also where your strength begins. Because when you stop waiting for rescue, when you stop expecting others to carry you, let's get brutally honest here. We grow up, fed on myths. Movies, books, childhood lessons, they all sell us the same fantasy, that there will always be someone who never leaves. That if we just love hard enough, stay loyal enough, sacrifice enough, someone will return that loyalty unconditionally. It's a beautiful story, but it's not real life. It's don't real life. Life is inconvenient, messy. People are not bound to your script. They're bound to their own needs, their own battles, their own survival. And when your struggle stops serving them, when your presence becomes too heavy, they're gone. That realization can either make you bitter or it can make you unstoppable. Here's where I want to challenge you. Instead of asking, why didn't they show up for me? Start asking, why did I expect them to? Not in a cold or cynical way, but in a freeing way. Because the moment you release people from roles they never signed up for, you reclaim your power. You stop handing away the keys to your peace. You stop waiting for a savior who will never arrive. That's what the Stoics were training for. Ancient warriors didn't practice in crowded arenas with people cheering their names. They trained in silence because they knew the arena of life and death was a place only they could stand. They prepared as if no help was coming because it wasn't, and that preparation kept them alive. Your life is no different. If you place your survival in someone else's hands, you collapse the moment they let go. But if you build your strength within, no one's absence can destroy you. I know this sounds heavy, maybe even lonely. The moment you accept that no one is coming to save you is the exact moment you step into freedom. Because then, every person who does show up becomes a gift, not a requirement. Their presence becomes a blessing, not a crutch. You stop demanding the impossible. You start living with clarity. You enjoy companionship, but you no longer depend on it. You appreciate loyalty when it's there, but you don't build your foundation on shifting sand. And suddenly, disappointment doesn't crush you anymore because you no longer rehearse the illusion that people owe you permanence. So let me leave you with this thought. When the storm comes, and it always does, you will look around for help. Sometimes you'll find a hand. Sometimes you won't. But either way, you are not powerless. Because the most unshakable ally you'll ever have is the one staring back at you in the mirror. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you rise. The sooner you stop expecting loyalty as a lifetime guarantee, the sooner you discover the freedom of walking on your own 2 feet. And from that freedom, a strange peace emerges. A peace built not on illusions, but on strength. So let me ask you again, if no one is coming to save you, how will you save yourself? That is where your real power begins. We've all been told a story since childhood, a story that feels warm, safe, comforting, a partner who will stand through every storm. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But here's the sting. It's a myth. Real life is messy, inconvenient, unpredictable. And when your struggle no longer serves them, when the cost of standing beside you becomes too high, they often walk away. Not always with anger, not always with betrayal. Sometimes they just disappear. Think back to your own life. How many people once felt like permanent fixtures in your world? A best friend you spoke to every single day. A partner you thought you couldn't breathe without. A family member who swore, "I'll never turn my back on you." Where are all of them now? Chances are some stayed, but many faded into the background of your life story. And the truth is, that's not a failure. That's just life. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Seneca warned us not to tie our happiness to permanence, because permanence doesn't exist. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journals, "Do not expect figs in winter." What he meant was simple. Don't expect from people or from life what it cannot give. Yet, most of our heartbreak comes from doing exactly that. We demand forever from people who were only ever meant to walk with us for a season. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're walking down a long road, carrying a heavy pack. At the beginning of the journey, dozens of people walk with you. The sun is shining, the path is smooth, the laughter is easy. It feels like no one will ever leave. But then the road begins to climb. The air gets thinner. The rocks sharpen under your feet, and slowly, one by one, some say, I'll wait for you here. Others say, this is too much. I'm turning back. And suddenly the crowd that felt unshakable is gone. Did they betray you? No. They just chose comfort, safety, their own pace. And the lesson is clear. Loyalty bends when the cost becomes too high. This realization hurts at first. It can feel like your chest is splitting open. But here's where the power comes in. Once you stop expecting eternal loyalty, you stop begging for what cannot be given. You stop waiting for saviors who will never arrive. And you begin to build the only bond that cannot break, the one with yourself. I knew a woman who lived this truth the hard way. She was the steady friend, the one who showed up for everyone, the listener at 2 a.m., the giver when her own pockets were empty, the shoulder when everyone else was falling apart. But when her darkest hour came, when she lost her job and her health collapsed, the people she had poured into were gone. At first, she broke under the weight of it. She cried, she raged, she asked, how could they abandon me after everything I gave? And then, slowly, she realized something. The pain didn't just come from their absence. It came from her expectation. She had written a script in her mind that because she had stayed for them, they would stay for her. That shift was brutal, but it was also the beginning of her freedom. She learned to stop living in illusions, to stop demanding permanence from those who were only passing through. And from that moment on, she walked lighter. So let me turn this toward you. How many of your heartbreaks, your disappointments, your sleepless nights come not from what people actually did? How much of your suffering comes not from their leaving, but from your insistence that they should have stayed? When you release that expectation, you reclaim your peace. Here's the Stoic lesson in plain words. People are not loyal to you. They are loyal to their own needs. They are not bound to your story. They are bound to their survival. And that's not cruelty. The mistake is believing otherwise. The mistake is clinging to the myth of forever. Now, you might be wondering, does this mean we stop trusting everyone? Do we stop loving? Do we close our hearts? No, not at all. It means we shift. We learn to appreciate people for the season they're with us, without demanding that they last forever. We enjoy companionship when it's there, but we don't build our foundation on it. We give loyalty as long as it's natural, but we stop making it the condition of our survival. Because the truth is, when loyalty ends, it doesn't mean the love was fake. It means the chapter closed. Here's the freedom in this. You begin to stop asking, why didn't they stay? And start asking, what can I build that lasts even when they go? You stop building your house on shifting sand and start building it on the one foundation that never crumbles, your own strength. And from that place, every person who walks with you becomes a blessing, not a necessity. Every act of loyalty becomes a gift, not an entitlement. The sooner you break the illusion of eternal loyalty, the sooner you stop being crushed by disappointment. The sooner you stop rehearsing the same heartbreak again and again. You start standing taller, carrying your own weight, walking with clarity instead of illusions. And there's a strange peace in that strength. Because when you stop demanding forever, you finally start living free. So let me leave you with this question. If loyalty isn't forever, if people are only with you for a season, what will you do with the time you have? Will you waste it, clinging, begging, demanding permanence? Or will you walk with gratitude, knowing that when the season ends, you are still whole? That's the choice. That's the freedom. That's the strength of a Stoic heart. Let's walk into a raw and uncomfortable truth. Human nature runs on self-interest. We don't always want to admit it. We prefer to believe people are endlessly loyal, endlessly giving, endlessly selfless. But if you look closely, if you're honest with yourself, you'll see it. Most people remain close only when the road is smooth. The moment your presence becomes costly, the moment your struggle demands too much, many will drift away. Now, this doesn't mean people are cruel or evil. It simply means they're human. Every single one of us is born with an instinct for survival. And survival means this. We protect our time, our energy, our resources. When someone says, "I'll always be there for you," what they often really mean is, "I'll be there until the cost becomes too high." That cost might be time. It might be energy. Think back to your own life. Maybe you thought family would be different. Maybe you believed your closest friend would be the exception. But has there never been a moment when even they revealed the limits of their loyalty? Maybe one heated argument and they disappeared for months. Maybe you went through a hard season and their presence slowly faded because it was too uncomfortable to stay. Maybe they swore they'd never leave, yet when things turned dark, they became ghosts. That ache you feel remembering those moments, that ache isn't born from their actions alone. It's born from your expectation. You wrote a script for them in your heart, and when they didn't play the role, it shattered you. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, gave himself a reminder. Do not expect figs in winter. In other words, don't demand fruit from a tree when the season doesn't allow it. Don't demand from people what they cannot give. The pain of life is rarely in the event itself. It's in our refusal to accept things as they are. Here's where Stoic wisdom deepens. You must stop expecting loyalty where it cannot exist. Stop projecting your ideals onto people and demanding they live up to them. The moment you release those expectations, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a prisoner of other people's choices. You stand as your own anchor. No one owes you friendship. No one owes you loyalty. No one even owes you love. These things are gifts given when they align with someone's needs, their values, their capacity. Let me tell you a story. I knew a woman who poured her soul into her circle of friends. She lent money she couldn't spare. She spent hours listening to their problems while ignoring her own. She carried their weight as if it was her own. But when the tables turned, when she lost her job and her health declined, she waited for the calls that never came. She looked at the door that never opened. At first, she was furious at them. Then she was furious at herself. But over time, she realized something sharper. The rage was pointless. It wasn't betrayal that broke her. It was her illusion. She had demanded loyalty from people who never promised it in the first place. So she shifted. She turned that energy inward. She stopped scripting others and started anchoring herself. And in that shift, she found peace stronger than the noise of empty promises. Here's the cost of ignoring this truth. If you continue expecting loyalty where it doesn't exist, you will grow bitter. You will cling to relationships long past their season, hoping to squeeze water from a stone. You'll drain yourself chasing shadows, always wondering why people don't live up to your script. And in the end, that bitterness will cut deeper than solitude ever could. But if you accept reality, if you see people as they are, not as you imagine, you move lighter. You savor companionship when it's there, but you don't collapse when it fades. That is freedom. This doesn't mean you stop loving. It doesn't mean you close your heart. It means you love with clarity. You connect without chains. You walk with people while they walk with you, and when their path turns, you let them go with grace. Because no matter how much you want them to stay, life is not built on your wants. Epictetus, another great Stoic, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things beyond our control." Expecting permanence from people is one of those things outside your control. It will only chain you to resentment. So instead, anchor your strength to yourself. Build your peace on your own foundation. That way, when others drift away, you remain steady. Let's bring this closer with an image. Picture a tree standing on a hill. In spring, birds fill its branches. Their songs make the tree feel alive, surrounded, celebrated. But when winter comes, the birds fly south. The branches are bare. Now, if the tree demanded, "Stay forever, sing forever," it would only drive itself mad. Birds come when it suits them. They leave when they must. The tree remains. You are that tree. People are the birds. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop grieving every departure as betrayal. Here's the closing strike of this chapter. Stop expecting the world to play by your script. Nobody owes you loyalty. Nobody owes you permanence. People give what they can, when they can, and only for as long as it serves their path. That's not tragedy. That's nature. Accept it, and you become untouchable. Resist it, and you remain bound. So the question I'll leave with you is this. If you know people are guided by their own self-interest, if you know loyalty bends under pressure, what will you do with that knowledge? Will you grow bitter, demanding forever, or will you release the chains of expectation and walk free? That choice decides whether you remain a prisoner of disappointment or rise as your own anchor. Picture this. You're standing at the base of a mountain. The air is fresh, the sun is warm, and the path ahead looks inviting. Around you, there's a crowd of people, friends, family, companions, all smiling, laughing, promising, we'll climb this together, no matter what. It feels unshakable, doesn't it? But then the climb begins. At first, it's easy. The ground is soft, the slope gentle. The rocks bite into your feet, and one by one, you notice people slowing down. Someone says, "I'll wait for you here." Another mutters, "This is too much. I'm heading back." And suddenly, the crowd that felt eternal is gone. You look to your left, to your right, and all you see is empty path. Now comes the painful question. Are they bad people for leaving? The truth is, no. They are simply being human. They are choosing safety, comfort, and self-preservation. That's what humans do. When the climb grows steep, loyalty often takes second place to survival. This is where the wisdom of the Stoics cuts through the fog. Seneca once said, "A wise man is content with himself." The meaning is sharp and simple. Your climb was always your own. To resent those who step back is to misunderstand the nature of the mountain. Life mirrors this climb. When the days are sunny, when fortune smiles, when health is strong, everyone gathers. But when the storm breaks, when sickness comes, when loss strips you bare, when failure knocks you to the ground, many will disappear. As bitter as it feels, this too is natural. Because the climb was never theirs to finish. It was always yours. I watched a friend live this truth in the harshest way. In the early days of his success, his house was full. Dinner parties, laughter, conversations, late into the night he thought he had found his circle for life. But then, in a single year, he lost nearly everything. His job, his health, his marriage. And just like that, the rooms turned hollow. The calls went unanswered. The visits stopped. At first, he cursed their absence. He drowned in bitterness, asking, "How could they leave me now, after everything?" But over time, he learned something deeper. The climb was his, not theirs. It was never their responsibility to carry him to the summit. When he finally stopped resenting the silence and began preparing to move forward alone, that's when his real strength began. Here's where your reflection must begin. How much of your suffering comes not from the climb itself, but from the anger that others did not walk it for you? How many nights have you wasted wishing someone else would shoulder your pack, bleed beside you, fight your battles, ease your pain? The Stoics teach us, drop that expectation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. People leaving is not your wound. Your wound is expecting them to stay. And when you release that, the scar begins to heal. Now let's be clear. Preparing to climb alone does not mean isolation. It does not mean you close your heart to companionship. It does not mean you mistrust every hand extended toward you. It means this. You welcome people when they walk beside you, but you do not depend on them to keep moving. You carry your own pack. You sharpen your own strength. You train your spirit to withstand the thin air and the rough stone. When someone joins you for a season, enjoy it. When they step away, keep climbing, because the climb was always yours and yours alone. This shift changes everything. You stop crumbling when the path narrows. You stop collapsing when the voices fade. You stop raging at those who could not finish a climb that was never theirs. Instead, you become steady. And here's the paradox. When you no longer demand that others carry you, you actually become easier to walk with because you're not clinging, you're not draining, you're walking strong, and that strength attracts companions who want to rise too. Let me ask you this. How many times have you resented someone for leaving when in truth, they simply couldn't handle the climb you were on? How much lighter would your journey be if you released that resentment? If you stopped demanding that they stay longer than they could? Think of the peace that would come if you said, "Thank you for walking with me as far as you did. I'll take it from here." That's not weakness. I want to give you one final image. Imagine reaching the peak. The air is sharp, the view endless. You turn to your left, to your right, and maybe no one else is there. But does that make the summit any less real? Does it make the climb any less worthy? No, because the victory was never about who walked beside you. It was about the fact that you walked it all. And the one presence that never left you, the one that climbed every step with you, is still there. Yourself. So, let this chapter close with clarity. Stop resenting people for being what they are. Stop demanding they carry you. Stop expecting your climb to be anyone's responsibility but your own. Prepare to climb alone. Not because you will always be alone, but because the strength you build in solitude will carry you, whether people stay or leave. And in that strength lies a rare kind of peace. Because true loyalty is not measured by who stays at the bottom. It is measured by how fiercely you walk when no one else remains. Here's a truth that will cut but also free you. Loyalty is not forever. It is only for a moment. A friend can walk beside you today, stand shoulder to shoulder with you through laughter and light, and tomorrow their path may veer in another direction. That isn't always betrayal. That isn't always cruelty. Often, it's simply life moving forward. The pain comes when we refuse to accept that. Think of it this way. Imagine building your house on land you don't own. At first, it feels solid. Every laugh shared, every promise made feels like unshakable ground. But one day, the landowner comes and reclaims what was never yours. And in an instant, everything collapses. This is what happens when you build your peace, your strength, your identity on the presence of other people. The moment they leave, and eventually, most of you collapse with them. The Stoics knew this danger. Epictetus warned, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will flow well." Applied here, it means this. Stop wishing for people to remain forever. Instead, learn to meet their presence with gratitude while it lasts, and their absence with calm acceptance. I once spoke with a man who told me, "I thought they were my friends." His voice carried both anger and sorrow. He had given everything: time, money, energy, love. And when his storm came, he looked around for the loyalty he thought was guaranteed. But the room was empty. At first, he saw this as betrayal. He cursed them. He cursed himself. But over time, he realized something different. They were his friends for a time. They offered what they could until their own burdens became too heavy. His mistake wasn't their absence. His mistake was demanding permanence from what was never meant to be permanent. Here's where the freedom begins. The day you stop clutching at fading hands is the day the chains start to fall. You stop pleading for people to stay. You stop begging for promises they cannot keep. You stop collapsing every time someone leaves. Instead, you begin to see loyalty for what it really is. A flame that burns for a moment. Bright, beautiful, warming but not eternal. And when the flame dies, you don't mourn the dark. Now, some people hear this and say, "So, what are you telling me to never trust anyone?" No, that's not the message. This isn't about distrust. It's about clarity. It's about refusing to live in a fantasy. It's about enjoying relationships as they are, not as you wish they would be. Because here's the truth. People come and go. They serve their part in your story, then they move on to their own. And that is not tragedy, it is nature. Your job is not to chain them. Your job is to remain. Think about your own history. The friends who once felt like family, The relationships you thought would last forever. How many are still there in the same way? Chances are, most are not. And that doesn't mean those seasons weren't real. The tragedy isn't that people leave. The tragedy is when we keep dragging dead weight forward, demanding that something temporary act like it's eternal. The Stoics were relentless about this truth. They trained themselves to accept impermanence, not with bitterness, but with strength. When Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "Do not expect figs in winter," he was reminding himself not to demand fruit out of season. In the same way, don't demand loyalty out of people who have already moved on. Don't demand permanence from those who were only meant to walk with you for a chapter. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a fire pit. For hours it warms you, comforts you, lights your night, but eventually the wood burns out, the flames fade. Do you sit there screaming at the ashes, demanding they ignite again? Of course not. You accept the fire served its purpose, and then you gather new wood, and you light your own. People are the same. Some warm you for a season, some stay longer than others, but none were meant to burn forever. And if you keep screaming at the ashes, you'll never move forward. So here's the question that changes everything. When someone leaves, will you collapse with them? Or will you light your own fire? See as action, see as action. I knew a man who lived this transformation. For years, he built his life around his circle of friends. He couldn't imagine a day without them. But when his darkest hour arrived, those same friends vanished. He was shattered. But slowly he shifted. He stopped waiting for their calls. He stopped rehearsing the old pain. He started building himself, his skills, his health, his spirit. And in time, he discovered something he had never known. Power. The kind of power no one can take away because it isn't borrowed. It's his. That's the invitation for you. Stop building your foundation on borrowed ground. Stop demanding permanence from what was never permanent. Stop handing the keys to your strength to anyone outside yourself. Because the only one who will climb every step of the mountain with you is you. Others may join for a season. They may share laughter at the lower slopes or walk a few ridges with you. But when the air thins, when the climb grows punishing, the voices will fade, and that's okay. Because the climb was always yours. So let this sink in like stone. Loyalty is not a chain that binds forever. It is a flame that burns in moments. And when that flame dies, you do not mourn. You light your own fire. From that moment, you become unstoppable. From that moment, your power is no longer borrowed, it is yours. And once you master this truth, the ground beneath your feet can never again be taken away. Because now, you are no longer waiting, no longer begging, no longer expecting what life cannot give. You are building, you are standing, you are free. There's a phrase we've all heard before: real friends never change. It paints such a warm picture, doesn't it? A circle of people growing old together, unshaken by time, untouched by storms, steady through every season. It feels like something out of a movie, safe, reassuring, permanent. But life doesn't follow scripts. Life follows change. Think about it honestly. The people who stood closest to you 5 years ago, are they still in your life in the same way today? Do you talk every day like you used to? Do you share the same dreams, the same plans, the same hunger for the future? Chances are, the answer is no. Back then, you might have sworn, I can't imagine life without them. But here you are, living without them. Not because you stopped caring, but because life happened. People got married, they had children, they moved to new cities, they faced new battles. Their priorities shifted. The rhythm of daily calls turned into occasional texts, then silence. Not because they hated you, not because they betrayed you, but because survival demanded their attention elsewhere. This is the truth Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of when he wrote, "Observe how all things change and constantly undergo dissolution, and be content with this. And summum light many be God. It is also is self Nothing is fixed, not even the people we hold dearest. To expect them to remain exactly the same is to fight against the nature of life itself. Here's where the sting sharpens. Sometimes change wounds us more deeply. A friend turns selfish. Success inflates their pride. They seek new circles we can't stand. And we say, they've really changed. But look closer. Sometimes they didn't change at all. Life simply revealed who they always were beneath the surface. Pressure, money, power, suffering. These things don't always transform people. They expose them. They strip away the masks, and when the veil drops, you finally see the person standing in front of you. When that moment comes, you stand at a crossroad. You can cling. You can beg them to return to who they once were. Or you can choose the harder, freer path. You can let go. You can accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. I once knew someone who couldn't let go. He kept calling, kept replaying old conversations, as if his desperation could breathe life back into the past. But each attempt only deepened his pain. It wasn't until he whispered to himself, "They were with me for a season. That season is over," that he finally found peace. Because here's the hardest lesson of all. People come and go, and that is not a crime. It's simply the law of life. So stop demanding permanence. Stop resenting change. Stop assuming shifting tides mean betrayal. Sometimes people leave because they must. Sometimes they change because life requires it. And sometimes they reveal truths you hadn't seen before. Your task is the same in every case: to remain grounded in yourself, to stay unbroken, even as the ground shifts under others. Here's another angle most people don't want to admit. Sometimes it's not them who changed. It's you. Think back 10 years ago. Are you the same person you were then? Do you hold the same goals, the same values, the same priorities? Of course not. You've grown. You've evolved. You've shed old skins and walked into new seasons. So why do we demand that others remain frozen in time when we ourselves have changed? If you expect people to respect your evolution, you must grant them the same grace. Marcus Aurelius gave us the wisdom. Observe constantly that all things take place by change. That means rivers, seasons, nations, and yes, even people. To fight this truth is to stay chained to illusions. To embrace it is to walk free. Let me give you one more image. Life is like a train. At every station, people get on and people get off. Some ride with you for a few stops. Others stay half the journey. A rare few may travel almost to the end. But very, very few will ride from the first station to the last. When someone steps off, do you rage at the platform? Do you scream, "How dare you leave me?" Of course not. You keep moving forward because your destination is your own. Life is no different. Sometimes people don't just change, they outgrow you. Maybe you're chasing growth, discipline, clarity. Maybe you're building something meaningful while they're wasting their hours. You feel the gap widening. You feel the disconnect, and part of you wants to drag them with you. But here's the truth. You cannot carry someone who has no will to walk, and you should not, because if you stay tied to their pace, you lose your own. Epictetus said it best. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Growth often means stepping away from those who mock it or those who refuse to follow it. If you demand that everyone you started with stays until the end, you'll chain yourself to stagnation. The wise understand. Not everyone belongs in every season of your life. So here's the strength you must embrace. Stop clutching old versions of people. Stop demanding they remain who they were just because it comforts you. Let them change. Let them grow. Let them go. Because your life was never about who stayed. It was always about who you are becoming. And when you understand this, peace enters. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You turn your eyes forward, focusing only on what is within your control. Your growth, your evolution, your path. At this stage, the truth is clear. The people meant for you will align with you not because you force them to stay, but because their growth matches yours. Everyone else was passing through, and that's perfectly fine, because the train must keep moving, and your destination is waiting. There's a dangerous habit many of us fall into when it comes to people. We cling when we should let go. We hold on. We beg. And in doing so, we don't save it, we only exhaust ourselves. It's like clutching the ashes of a fire long burned out. Your hands don't get warmer. They only grow colder and dirtier. Think about it. How many times in your life have you refused to accept that a chapter had closed? Maybe it was a friendship that had run its course. Maybe it was a partner who no longer loved you. Maybe it was a circle that no longer aligned with your growth. And instead of stepping forward, you stayed stuck, replaying old memories, begging them to be who they once were, resenting them for doing what every human eventually does change. Here's the harsh reality. People grow. People evolve. And sometimes their path bends away from yours. That is not betrayal. That is not abandonment. That is simply life moving forward. But the real question is this: will you move forward too? Or will you waste yourself resenting them for obeying the one law no one escapes change? The Stoics reminded us of this again and again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." That includes rivers, seasons, nations, and yes, even the people closest to your heart. We expect them to remain exactly as we remember them. But that expectation is nothing more than an illusion meant to soothe us. Reality is sharper. People will change, and you must learn to change with them or apart from them. Here's an image to help you see it clearly. Life is like a train. At every station, people get on and people get off. Some ride with you for only a few stops. Others may stay half the journey. A rare few may stay almost until the end. But very, very few will ride from the first station to the last. When someone steps off, do you rage at the platform? Do you scream, "How dare you leave me?" Of course not. You keep moving forward because your destination is your own. Life is no different. Sometimes, clinging is even more dangerous when it comes to growth. Maybe you're chasing discipline, clarity, wisdom, while someone else is content wasting their days in cycles of distraction. Maybe you're building something meaningful while they mock you for trying. And part of you wants to carry them, to drag them with you, to keep them close. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot carry someone who has no will to walk, and you should not. If you tie yourself to those who refuse to grow, you chain yourself to stagnation. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because growth often means stepping away from those who mock it. Growth means being misunderstood. Growth means letting go of those who are comfortable standing still. The wise understand, not everyone belongs in every season of your life. Let me tell you a story. I knew someone who refused to let go of a friend from his youth. They had been inseparable, high school, late-night talks, wild adventures. But as the years passed, their paths diverged. One chased growth. The other chased distraction. And yet, he clung. He begged. He carried the friendship like a corpse on his back. And all it did was slow him down. It wasn't until he finally whispered, "That season is over," and the freedom was immediate. He could breathe again. He could move again. So let me ask you, how much of your suffering today comes not from the people who left, but from your refusal to let them go? How many of your scars are not from betrayal, but from holding too tightly to what life had already ended? Here's the Stoic clarity. Betrayal is a deliberate wound. Change is the law of existence. When someone grows in a direction that no longer includes you, they are not striking at you. They are simply living their life. And you must live yours. The strength lies in letting them. Stop clutching old versions of people. Stop demanding they stay the same because it comforts you. Let them change. Let them grow. Let them go. Because your life was never about who stayed. It was always about who you are becoming. And here's the reward when you embrace this truth. Peace enters. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You stop fighting battles that cannot be won. You turn your eyes forward, focusing on the only thing you can control: your own growth, your own evolution, your own path. And suddenly, you feel lighter. At this stage, the truth is simple. The people meant for you will align with you, not because you force them to stay, but because their growth matches yours. Everyone else was passing through. And that's perfectly fine, because your train must keep moving, and your destination is waiting. So let me close this chapter with clarity. Clinging will only drain you. Letting go will set you free. The people who are truly yours will walk with you not because you begged, not because you chained them, but because their path is already moving alongside yours. Everyone else, bless them, thank them, release them, and keep moving. Because the truth is, life isn't about who stays. It's about who you become while you keep walking. Let's face a truth most people avoid. Many of us confuse dependence with love. We say things like, "I can't live without you." We whisper, "You complete me." And while it sounds romantic, what it really is chains. Chains that bind our worth to someone else's presence. And here's the problem. Anything built on chains will eventually break. Think about how this plays out. You're waiting for a text to confirm you matter. You replay a sentence in your head 100 times, wondering what they think of you. You hesitate to make decisions, not because you don't know the answer, but because you're waiting for someone else to approve it. This isn't love. This is captivity. Or, this is captivity. It feels harmless at first, just wanting to be cared for, just craving reassurance. But over time, it becomes a trap. Your emotions start swinging like a pendulum, not by what happens inside you, but by what happens outside of you. When they smile, you glow. When they withdraw, you collapse. Tell me, what kind of life is that? The Stoics would call this the ultimate slavery, to be chained to the approval of others. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Translation: stop living for applause. Stop tying your worth to nods of approval, because the pursuit of validation keeps you enslaved, while the pursuit of inner strength makes you unshakable. I knew a man who always said, "I need her. I can't live without her." At first, his friends thought it sounded romantic, but when she felt that desperation, she pulled away. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Desperation does not inspire respect. It suffocates it. When she left, he shattered. Not because she betrayed him, but because he had built his identity on her presence. Only later did he learn what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good." The power was never in her. It was always in him. Here's where the truth sharpens. Dependence is weakness dressed up as devotion. Real love is not dissolving into another person. Real love is standing whole, standing strong, and choosing them not because you fear being alone, but because you honor them from a place of strength. When you dissolve yourself into someone else, you hand them the keys to your worth. And people who sense your desperation will respect you less. Some will even exploit it. Let's be honest. Manipulators, users, exploiters, they seek out the needy. Why? Because the needy are easy to control. If your happiness depends on their approval, they can pull your strings with ease. Think about the seasons in your life when you felt most valued. Was it when you were begging for attention? Or was it when you were standing firm, confident in who you were, unafraid of solitude? You already know the answer. Confidence attracts respect. Independence attracts loyalty. Not blind loyalty, but genuine alignment. Strength calls to strength. This pattern starts early. From childhood, we're conditioned to crave validation. Gold stars, praise, applause, approval. And it doesn't disappear as we age. It sneaks into our friendships, our relationships, even our work. We toil harder for recognition than for purpose. We stay silent to avoid conflict. fearing rejection more than dishonor. And then we wonder why we feel trapped, anxious, empty. The Stoics would say, so imagine this. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing validation? If you no longer measured your worth by who texted you back, who applauded your choices, who stayed, or who left, you would be free. Free to act boldly, free to walk away from dishonor, free to build something lasting. Freedom does not come from others. It comes from self-reliance. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself. That is the throne you must claim. That is the kingdom you must rule." When you stop giving away the power to control your emotions, when you stop handing out keys to a house others did not build, something incredible happens. You begin to live on solid ground. The day you stop depending on others for your peace is the day you finally start living. Yes, it will feel hard. Yes, it will sting. But nothing worth having comes easy. The reward? You'll never beg for attention again. You'll never tolerate dishonor again. And you'll never fear solitude again. That is power. That is freedom. That is the life you were meant to claim. Now let's strip away the illusions about relationships and see them clearly. Every bond you hold exists because it serves a purpose for both sides. Maybe that purpose is companionship. Maybe it's laughter. Maybe it's shared goals. But make no mistake, there is always an exchange. You give something. They give something. That's why it works. And when that exchange stops, when the balance collapses, the relationship fades. But here's the danger. Most of us resist this truth. We cling to the fantasy that love should last forever simply because it once felt strong. We believe real friends should stay no matter what. We whisper, "If I'm present, that should be enough." It sounds noble, but it's not reality. Reality is self-interest. Reality is reciprocity. And that's not evil, it's nature. If a bond drains more than it gives, it breaks. If someone feels they pour into you but never receive, they step away. And if you're honest, you do the same. Marcus Aurelius said, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." Relationships thrive when both sides feel nourished. Expecting loyalty without value is like expecting harvest without planting seed. So stop clinging to expired ties. Stop demanding others stay when they no longer can. And stop calling dependence love it's not. True love, true loyalty, true friendship. They are choices made from strength, not chains forged from fear. So let me leave you with this. If you want real respect, build strength within yourself. If you want real love, stand whole and choose another from that place of wholeness. And if you want real freedom, stop tying your worth to the shaky ground of other people's validation. Because the truth is this: the day you stop begging to be seen is the day you truly become visible. Here's a truth that unsettles people, but it will free you if you accept it. Relationships survive on value, not history. It doesn't matter how long you've known someone. It doesn't matter how many years you've walked side by side. If the bond no longer brings mutual growth, respect, or purpose, it begins to die. And yet, so many of us live chained to the past. We cling to history like it's proof of loyalty. We whisper, "But we've been friends for 10 years. As if years alone should guarantee a lifetime of respect. But history is not value. Time is not nourishment. Yesterday's bond cannot feed today's hunger. Think about it this way. Would you keep driving a car with no fuel just because you once loved the road trips it gave you? Of course not. You know it won't move without energy, no matter how many memories it carries. So why do we expect relationships to keep moving when no effort, no respect, no reciprocity is left? The Stoics would cut through this illusion without mercy. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." Relationships thrive only when both sides are nourished. Expecting someone to stay without giving value, or expecting yourself to stay when they've stopped giving, creates stagnation. And stagnation is not loyalty. It is self-sabotage. I once knew someone who poured years into a friendship. 10 years of late-night calls, inside jokes, shared struggles. But slowly, the balance shifted. The friends stopped showing up. Every conversation turned into complaints, drama, bitterness. And yet, she clung to the history. She told herself, "We've been through too much to let go now." But here's the truth. 10 years of memories don't entitle someone to eternal access to your life. The past is not a ticket to the future. She eventually realized this. And when she released that weight, she felt lighter than she had in years. Here's where many people make two fatal mistakes. They expect others to stay, even when they no longer bring any value. They keep holding on to people who drain them out of guilt, nostalgia, or fear of solitude. Both mistakes chain you to illusions. Let me give you a sharper picture. Imagine your emotions as a bank account. Every relationship is a cycle of deposits and withdrawals. When both sides give trust, support, laughter, respect, the balance grows. But what happens if one side only withdraws? They complain, they take your time, they lean on your strength but never return it. Slowly, your account bleeds into debt. And here's the kicker. If you keep allowing endless withdrawals, whose fault is it? Not just theirs. It's yours for refusing to set a limit. Seneca once advised, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." That is the heart of real relationships. Mutual growth, mutual lifting, mutual enrichment. Not cages of resentment, not prisons of obligation, not endless nostalgia dragging you backward. So ask yourself, who in your life consistently drains you? Who leaves you feeling weaker, smaller, less hopeful after every encounter? Those bonds are not friendships. They are liabilities. And you cannot afford liabilities if you want to rise. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a call to discard people at the first sign of struggle. Everyone goes through hard seasons. Real value doesn't mean perfection, it means effort. If someone tries, even when broken, that is value. If they show up, even imperfectly, that is value. But if all they bring are excuses, entitlement, and endless drama, then holding on is not loyalty. It's self-neglect. Here's the hard reality. Every person in your life is either lifting you or holding you down. There is no neutral. Each interaction either gives energy or drains it. And if you are serious about growth, about clarity, about freedom, you cannot afford to be surrounded by takers. Because takers don't just slow you down, they hollow you out. They leave you too weak to carry your own mission. So let me ask you directly, are you keeping people in your life out of guilt, out of fear of being alone, out of nostalgia for what used to be? If yes, then you're sacrificing your future for the comfort of a past that no longer exists. Relationships are not eternal contracts. They are living exchanges. They survive only when both sides keep showing up, keep depositing, keep contributing. Love without respect will not last. Respect without reciprocity will not last. Loyalty without value will not last. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop dragging dead weight into every new chapter of your life. I knew a man who gave endlessly. He lent money he couldn't spare. He listened through nights when his own heart was breaking. He carried everyone else's storms as if they were his own. But when his darkest hour came, he looked around and found only silence. At first, he felt betrayed. But over time, he realized the betrayal wasn't in their absence, it was in his fantasy. He had believed loyalty was permanent, that history guaranteed reciprocity. It did not. And when he finally released that illusion, he discovered peace deeper than the noise of empty promises. So let me give you the Stoic clarity. Stop clinging to expired ties. Stop expecting others to carry your happiness. Stop calling history loyalty when there is no present value. Build circles where both sides give, both sides grow, both sides win. That is not cold, that is clarity. Because in the end, your life will not be measured by how long people stayed. It will be measured by who added real value. and who you chose to enrich in return. Here's the final, sharpest truth of them all. At the end of the day, the only true friend you can count on is yourself. Sit with that for a moment. It might sound harsh, it might even sound lonely, but it's not tragedy, it's reality. And once you embrace it, it becomes freedom. Think about it. When everything falls apart, when the job vanishes, when the relationships fade, when the support dries up, who remains? Not the ones who swore they'd stay forever. Not the friends who promised they had your back. Not even the family who once said, "I'll never let you down." Who remains is you. Always you. This doesn't mean people are cruel. It doesn't mean they never cared. It means they're human. Everyone is carrying storms of their own. They cannot always carry you too. And sometimes, they won't even try, not out of hatred, but because their strength is already spent. If your peace, your stability, your survival depend on others showing up, then you're fragile. That is why the bond you build with yourself is the most important bond of all. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." To anchor your worth in others is to live at their mercy. To anchor it in yourself is to walk free. So ask yourself honestly, can you sit alone and feel peace? Or does silence terrify you because you've built your identity on noise and applause? Crowds disperse, applause fades, friends drift, but you remain. If your foundation rests on what can vanish, you will collapse. The strongest are not those surrounded by many, but those who can walk alone and still move forward. So what does it mean to be your own friend? It means taking responsibility for your life instead of waiting for rescue. It means setting standards and walking away when they're not met. It means building skills and chasing goals not to impress others, but to honor your own potential. It means becoming your own comfort when no one consoles, your own cheer when no one claps, your own savior when no one comes. Yes, it's terrifying at first, but then it's liberating, because once you stop waiting for flaky promises, you stop begging. Once you stop depending, you start building. You craft a life so strong that others become companions, not lifelines. You choose them. You don't need them, and that is real freedom. I knew a woman who gave everything to everyone else. She poured into friends, colleagues, family. She said yes when she wanted to say no. She tolerated disrespect out of fear of losing people. And when her darkest hour came, she discovered something brutal. No one showed up. At first, she broke. Then, slowly, she began to learn what she had forgotten. She was her own ally. The one in the mirror was the one who never left. And when she embraced that truth, she rose stronger than ever before. She stopped abandoning herself for the comfort of others. She stopped betraying her own dreams just to keep people close. She became her own anchor. And from that day forward, no storm could shake her. The Stoics would say, freedom is not found in the loyalty of others. It is found in the mastery of yourself. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Expecting people to carry you is beyond your control. Building yourself that is yours. So let me ask you, how often have you betrayed yourself? How many times have you poured into others while leaving your own well dry? How many times have you tolerated dishonor out of fear of being alone? How many times have you abandoned your own dreams just to make someone else comfortable? That is not loyalty. That is neglect. Here's the clarity you must embrace. No matter who leaves, you are still here. And as long as you are here, you are not finished. The only friend who will never betray you, never abandon you, never walk away. So show up for yourself now. Love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Yes, storms will come. Yes, people will leave. Yes, silence will fall. But when you have built yourself as your own ally, you will not collapse. You will not beg. You will not chase. You will not cling. You will stand. And you will rise. That's what it means to be untouchable. Not because life spares you from storms, but because you've built what no one can ever take away, unshakable self-reliance. So let me leave you with this closing strike. Stop handing your power away. Stop waiting for rescue. Stop clinging to illusions of permanence. You do not need 100 friends. You do not need a crowd. You need one ally who never leaves. And that person is staring back at you in the mirror. The day you decide to anchor yourself is the day you become unshakable. Remember this: you have always been enough. You always will be enough. So rise, build, walk forward, stronger, freer, untouchable. Because the only true friend you will ever need, the only one guaranteed from your first breath to your last, is you. So here we are, at the end of this journey. And if you remember nothing else, remember this: stop handing your power away. Nobody owes you loyalty. Nobody owes you consistency. Nobody owes you forever. And that is not a loss, it's an opportunity. For too long, many of us have lived like tenants in houses we do not own. We handed away the keys to our peace, our worth, our stability, waiting for others to lock the doors for us, waiting for others to protect what was always ours to protect. And then we wonder why we feel fragile, why we crumble when people leave, why we collapse when promises break. But here's the hard, liberating truth: no one is required to carry you through the storm, and no one has the power to decide your value unless you give it to them. So what's the strategy for a life of strength? The Stoics gave us the blueprint, and it's as relevant now as it was 2,000 years ago. Self-reliance is the only anchor that lasts, because people will come and go. Life will shift and bend. But the bond you form with yourself, that is unbreakable. That is forever. Here's how to live it. Appreciate people when they stay, but never depend on them staying. Companionship is a gift, not a guarantee. When they show up, welcome it. But never let their absence define your strength. Build your inner fortress. Train your mind the way a soldier trains his body. Strengthen your spirit so deeply that when storms come, you remain standing. Discipline, clarity, courage. These are not luxuries. They are your survival kit. Refuse to let others decide your worth. You are not measured by who texts you back, who applauds your choices, or who stays. You are measured by the standards you set for yourself and the promises you keep to yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the whole game. Control what is yours, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and release what is not. When you live like that, disappointment loses its teeth, loneliness loses its power, and the shifting tides of loyalty no longer drown you. Because the truth is this: you have always been enough. From your first breath to your last, the one presence guaranteed to walk with you is the one staring back in the mirror. That is your ride or die. That is your unshakable friend. When you finally decide to anchor yourself in that truth, you stop collapsing, you stop begging, you stop clinging, and you rise. So let me ask you, how many nights have you wasted waiting for people to show up? How much strength have you lost replaying broken promises in your mind? How long will you keep handing away the keys to your own freedom? It ends today. From this moment forward, guard your peace like it's sacred. Keep your promises to yourself like they are holy. Build your strength so high that no one else decides your worth. Yes, storms will still come. Yes, people will still leave. But you will remain untouched, unbroken, untouchable. That is what it means to live free. That is what it means to live stoic. So if you're ready, claim it now. Type "I rise" in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. As a declaration, as a line in the sand. Because the day you decide to anchor yourself is the day you become unshakable. And this is not the end. The next lesson will take you even deeper into this path of clarity, freedom, and strength. But until then, remember, you do not need the crowd. You do not need the applause. You do not need the promises. You need only one thing yourself, and that has always been enough. Stay strong. Stay clear. Stay free. End of conclusion. Anchor yourself. Become unshakable.